Peace. Welcome to the culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii. Thank you so much for tuning in and being a part of the conversation. Folks, we got a lot to talk about. First and foremost, let's ask the big question. Will this Israel-Hamas response and conflict cause President Biden's support for 2024? There are a number of Arab and Muslim Democrats who are saying that they believe the president is on the wrong side of history. We'll talk a little bit about that. Also, we'll talk about a growing story where American Jews are seeking to defend themselves amidst this conflict. There is a rise of Jewish folks in the country who are buying guns and taking self-defense classes. We'll talk a little bit about that. Later on, we'll discuss how Black women are paid less in this country than any other group and owe more in student and medical bills. So we'll have that conversation. And then later on, we're going to be checking in with LaDon Black, a relationship expert, to talk about this list that is circulating on social media about the do's and don'ts of first dating. So folks, stay with us. It's all happening on today's edition of The Culture right here on the Black Star Network. Let's go. All right, folks, welcome to the culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii. Thank you so much for tuning in and being a part of the conversation as we are broadcasting live. It is Wednesday, folks, October the 25th, and I'm so happy to be joining you once again as we have these conversations. In a few moments, I'm going to be bringing in my sister, Suzette Speaks, host of the Suzette Speaks show on YouTube, as well as the attorney out of Miami, Florida. We're going to be joining her in just a couple of seconds. But today we got a great show for you as we talk a little bit about this latest round of developments coming out of this Israel-Hamas conflict. Now, there's a growing concern among Muslim and Arabs, not just Arab voters, but Arab Democrats who are looking to the president and are saying that the president is not doing enough, even though the Biden administration has pledged to give $100 million in humanitarian aid. That is in small contrast to the billions of dollars that America is giving to Israel to support its efforts and its ongoing conflict with the Palestinian people. So this is bringing up a lot, folks, a lot. So we're going to talk a little bit about this, and I certainly want to get your take. So join us in the culture crew as being part of the culture crew. Join us in the chat today as we're streaming live on Roland Martin's YouTube page, as well as on Facebook. You can also check us out on streaming platforms, blackstarnetwork.com. We're streaming there, our home network, and of course on our other distributors, our other platforms of Amazon News on your Fire TV, Amazon Prime Video, Freevee, as well as Plex TV. So make sure y'all tune in for all of those spaces. All right, let's jump into the conversation. Got my sister Suzette Speaks joining us every Wednesday, as always. Suzette is always on the move. We're going to talk about it later, but I saw you were at the Black Men in Tech Conference down there in Florida, doing your thing as you always do. Welcome, Suzette. How you feeling this afternoon?
Fantastic. Thank you, Farajii. Great being here. As always, shout out to the culture crew.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right, Suzette, let's talk a little bit about the situation. Now, look, I don't think that when we have these conversations, I know you and I discussed this a little bit, some of these conversations require deep, I would say, geopolitical knowledge about some of these things. But then there's some cultural elements of this larger discussion about Israel, Hamas, and where the country stands on this conflict that I think that we can certainly kind of speak to, because it's right there in our alley. It's right down the same line that we have been speaking in terms of human rights, in terms of civil rights, in terms of making sure that you get your story out there, that we are determining, or the Palestinian folks are telling their story, the Israeli folks are telling their story. So I think it's a little bit of, it's a number of different things. But here's the thing that I think this is important, is that this round of violence that we're seeing right now between Israel and Hamas has I think sparked a greater interest than it has in the past. Like in the past, a lot of people have been just like, okay, that's happening in that part of the world. But this feels different, Suzette. This feels like a conflict that is actually enveloping all of us into it, that we're forced and more almost compelled to take a stand on this. And it becomes like this new metric on where we see this thing. Do you agree or disagree with me on that?
I think that's true. I think there is a heightened awareness. I am again not a expert in Middle East affairs or international relations or of this nature, but of course, as a political contributor, yes, I do think we can have the conversation about why, especially in America, there are such divergent opinions. I think. As I tried to express when I was on Roland the other day, that this is not a black and white type issue when we try to paint it with they're right and the other side is wrong. I think we missed the mark. I think there are nuances in this predicament that has been going on for literally centuries. And I think for us now in the United States, I was just pondering to myself last night, why so much more interest? I've never seen, especially on the Palestinian side, the cause
Yeah.
championed, shall I say, or even covered in a very empathetic way, the way it has been covered on a greater scale. I think people have a heightened awareness, and I was thinking as to why last night, and I thought to myself, well, there's been a generational shift, right? We are almost 3.5, maybe 4 generations away from World War II. 80 years ago in 2025, since the Nazis were defeated. I do think there's a shift in terms of the demographics of where people have migrated to, right? There's a lot more influence from the Arab world in Europe, in the United States, etc. So I think even looking at the Biden administration's policies now, there are a lot more voices that are aware of what's going on and that are questioning, how our American tax dollars are going to be spent.
And I think, you know what? I think that is so good and healthy for democracy, right? Because I think for many, many years, beyond President Biden's administration, for years, the people weren't as involved. We weren't as interested. I remember growing up under Ronald Reagan, Bill Clinton. Like, just the conversation about their administrations was not nearly as deep and as far as the conversation is right now, right? Of course, that was like eons ago. So, it seems like it was eons ago. But in terms of the level of interest and involvement, and it's interesting that now we're at this place. So I think to Biden's credit and to Kamala Harris's, Vice President Harris's credit, it's like they kind of opened the door for this type of discussion. They're saying to the rest of the country, oh, there's a safe space for us to have a national conversation, because back in the day, you couldn't talk about certain things. You couldn't say certain things. Now in the political space, it's all out, right? I don't know, because of the rise and the emergence of social media or whatever the case may be, but it's all out there right now. So this is very, very interesting. And of course, I think history, it has shown us that when you have major moments in this country's history, like January the 6th, or even with the House Speaker situation, like when you have these major moments, it's kind of hard to keep having conversations about other stuff and not talking about our government.
Well, yeah, I think the United States has always been kind of I hate to use a Ronald Reagan phrase, but a beacon
Right.
on the hill, shining beacon on the hill when it comes to foreign policy. Maybe we are more aware of it now, as we grow older, but it has always been, the United States kind of playing the global mediator when it comes to international relations. So this is how we've always been. I think, like I said, the demographics of the country have changed in the last even 40 years. So what people may not have said because of the political landscape back in the 80s under Ronald Reagan, how, conservatism was the order of the day. And, there was somewhat of a shift when we got Bill Clinton in the 90s and what he tried to do to pursue peace in the Middle East, like trying to bring both sides to the table, but it's been 25 years since then. So we haven't had a real major player from the United States, a leader to step up since Mr. Clinton to try to bring some sort of resolution to this. But I do think, like I said, the demographics and the political attitudes in our country have shifted since we have, seen these issues reemerge. And I think it's healthy to now have our government kind of take a step back and not always do what they've always done.
Which is traditionally, which is to do stuff behind closed doors without the American people knowing what's going on. Right?
I mean,
it wasn't. Look, the United States government was not the most is not the most transparent government. And so when we see this level of transparency, and I know we got to take out the first pause, but when we see this level of transparency, when you start to kind of pull the curtain back and you start to really see what's going on, then that's how you're going to empower people to become active citizens. At this point, we can't just act as if, oh, no, nothing is happening. You know what I mean? I'll never forget this Time magazine cover where they had Donald Trump. It was an artist rendering of Donald Trump sitting at in the Oval Office, and like he was in the middle of a storm. And I remember it was a very, it was a dope painting, but he was in the middle of the storm, tide blowing and everything. You got water, you got all the storms and stuff behind him. He's sitting at the desk and he says, "Nothing to see here." And that's been endemic of the American government for eons, for years, that we were not a part of the conversation until the very last minute. We didn't see things building up to the very last minute. We didn't know how money was spent. We didn't think about it because there was this culture where we just assumed that those in leadership knew what the hell they were doing, and they gave a damn about the interests of the people. Now we're at a different place in our government where we're not seeing that. We can't just go blindly trusting the American government without asking questions. And I don't think it's a bad thing that we ask questions. I don't think it's a bad thing that we're critical. It just simply means that we are alive and well, and that we're awakening, and that democracy is only going to happen when the people are involved. Democracy does not happen only on the government side. It comes to fruition once the people are actively involved. Look, I got to take a quick pause. When we come forward, look, let's talk about it. Let's talk about Israel. Let's talk about Hamas. Let's talk about how the president is looking at a drop in support because of the current stance that his administration is taking. And let's talk about the fact that you have more American Jews that are taking self-defense classes and buying guns because they are afraid of what's happening across the water. My question is, the threat for the Jewish peoples across the water, they can defend themselves. The threat against Black people is right here at home. And when we talk about defending ourselves, it becomes a problem. Let's not look at past the double standard there. Stay with us. The culture is coming back to you right here on the Black Star Network.
Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punch!
I'm real revolutionary right now.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig? When you talk about blackness and what happens in Black culture, you're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in Black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Check some money orders. Go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland@RolandSMartin.com.
All right, peace and welcome back to the culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii Muhammad. Thank you so much for joining us. Also, folks, joining my sister, Suzette Speaks, who is the host of the Suzette Speaks show on YouTube, as well as our attorney out of the state of Florida. All right, folks, let's talk a little bit about this. We gave you just a little appetizer. Little appetizer, right, Suzette?
I'm
Because,
sometimes I'm reading the chat. I'm loving it.
I mean, sometimes, man, you can jump right all in. We're going to give you a little appetizer. All right, so here's the question I'm posing. Mm-hmm. Will the Israel-Hamas response cost President Biden support for 2024? Here's why. Because there are many Arab Americans and even Muslims who are part of the Democratic Party who are upset about the president's latest stance of putting $100 million for humanitarian aid, billions with a B, to Israel, and not feeling like the lives of Palestinians and those in the Gaza Strip are of utter importance to the Biden-Harris administration. I remember there's an old saying that you can tell the priorities of a company, in this case of a country, by looking at its budget. Mm-hmm. So do you think, Suzette, that this is going to cause the president some problems as we go further into the campaign season for the national election? That and I'm going to just say it, some folks are even saying, hey, the president is taking this stance on this particular conflict. We may even sit out the 2024 election because his rhetoric doesn't match the priorities of the budget. What's your take on this?
I think there are, again, layers to this. And so I'll start with my own opinion first and foremost as to like what I think I am seeing through the president's behavior. So I, again, just looking at the news as everyone else who is watching this conflict and kind of trying to see where the trade winds are blowing, it has become clear to me, or even maybe as an assumption. I don't want to make assumptions here, but again, trying to use context clues as to what might or may not be happening. The fact that we have not yet seen a ground invasion, I would submit that might actually have to do with a lot of the influence from the United States. The fact that Israel has amassed more than 300,000 of its soldiers on the Gaza border, but we have not seen a kind of full-handed invasion yet. I think the United States has a lot to do with it as a kind of brokering partner, trying to mitigate what could be slaughter, what could be carnage, if and when it does happen. So I do think there are positions that are being taken when it comes to the monetary pledges that are, in fact, the numbers are the numbers. And again, I think the Arab American community has a right to question why money seemed to be so despairingly spent, right? 14 billion promised to Israel. And again, the president has been very clear that he's a pro-Israel president, right? He looks at Israel as a part of the democratic influence we, the United States, have in that region, and that it should be preserved or it should be protected, and the Jewish people have a right to exist and a right to defend themselves, and that the United States will be right there with them. He also did express in recent comments that he has quite a bit of, empathy for what is going on in Palestine, right? The suffering there, the innocent civilians there, not Hamas, but the actual day-to-day citizens who, again, have been living in an oppressive state, not able to leave, not able to do, anything, the lack of self-determination, the lack of jobs, really subsisting on international aid. It is unbearable to watch. I've been watching a lot of Al Jazeera in English, and just seeing the images of what goes on there on a daily basis, even before Hamas and this deadly terrorist attack. It's heartbreaking. So I do think there is going to be a lot of talk, especially in states like Michigan, where there is a significant, I think it's about 5% of the voters there are Arab American. it's going to matter because those states are very evenly split between Republican and Democrat and go back and forth depending on who's running for president. We might even see some of that same influence in states like Pennsylvania. But yeah, that Arab American vote is going to be very pivotal going forward. Will it cost him? I think it might be too premature to say, because
Right.
it will happen between now, as you would say, someone should happen between now and a year.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, I do think there is a lot more rattling from both sides. There are Israeli government supporters, Israeli, what can I say, dual passport holders, people who are both American and Israeli, as well as the Jewish community, who might feel the same way that the United States is not doing enough. But again, this is the first time in my memory that I've seen so much coverage from the perspective of what is happening to and for Palestinians in the Gaza Strip. Why it seems like their needs are weighed less than the needs of Israel? And I think that's a real question that a lot of people have been afraid to ask in the past, but they're asking it now.
It's a super real question. It's a major question. Here's what, and at least let's post quote two. This is coming from Reuters news agency, but they said this is like three people that's speaking to this. Abdullah Hamad, who is the first Arab American mayor of Dearborn, Michigan, home to the largest Muslim per capita population in the U.S., decried Biden's failure to condemn Israeli threats to cut off water, electricity, and food for over 2 million Palestinians in Gaza. This is happening in real time, folks. So you have that. Linda Salazar, a former executive director of the Arab American Association of New York, told hundreds of attendees at a Council on American Islamic Relations CARE event on Saturday that Muslim Americans should not make any political donations contingent on a change in policy. That's that. And then if you look at Saeed Ashton, he said, if you look at his rhetoric, speaking of President Biden, it's unbelievable. And now they are trying to pump billions and billions of dollars militarily into Israel, with some $100 million in humanitarian aid for the Palestinians. Mr. Ashton is a Quaker Palestinian American who teaches peace and conflict studies at Pennsylvania Swarthmore College. So you got three individuals, you got much more, obviously, in this country, who are speaking out and saying, look, Mr. President, what are you doing? It's not consistent. It's not exactly, this is not the human rights foreign policy approach that you promised us. And not just talking about money, but we could just talk about the culture. We could just talk about the fact that the conversation, the narrative about this is in a different place. It's not even. Is biased. And so, I think this is a very real concern, because I'm even seeing more Black people on social media, Suzette, and I'm sure you see it on your timeline or on X and other spaces. Black folks are like, wait a minute, y'all doing the same thing. Like when we talk about what's happening here, right? When we're talking about one group of people who has power, military might, access to control of the resources. We talked to Palestinian journalist Laura Albest last week. She said Israel controls a lot of the resources. So they're having a fuel problem right now. The UN is having a fuel problem, maintaining hospitals. So that means in the healthcare system there in Gaza. So if they're having a fuel problem because they can't get more fuel because Israel's closing off borders and whatnot, that's going to be another humanitarian issue. Then you have like the cutting off of water, electricity. And the crazy part is, and we got to take another pause. When we come forward, Suzette, I'm going to share with you what some officials from Israel said when the United Nations say that there needs to be a ceasefire. I'm going to share with y'all what they say. And it's getting to be this other thing. It's getting to be this other thing. It's not just like we're responding to Hamas. It's like, no, we're responding to Hamas. We're going to bomb this. We're responding to all of our other enemies and anybody else that doesn't like how we rule here in the region. And it's America we have to ask them some critical questions about our government's involvement in support of certain action coming from that side of the conflict. So we got to take another quick pause. When we come forward, more conversation with about this issue and American Jews who are looking to defend themselves. Stay with us. It's The Culture here on the Black Star Network.
Folks, Black Star Network is here.
Hold no punches.
I'm real revolutionary right now.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland.
I love y'all.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, this difference between Black Star Network and black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
I'm Farajii Muhammad, live from LA. And this is The Culture. The Culture is a two-way conversation. You and me. We talk about the stories, politics, the good, the bad, and the downright ugly. So join our community every day at 3 p.m. Eastern and let your voice be heard. Hey, we're all in this together. So let's talk about it and see what kind of trouble we can get into. It's The Culture. Weekdays at 3, only on the Black Star Network.
When you talk about blackness and what happens in black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Checks and money orders go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com.
All right, folks, welcome back to The Culture here on the Black Star Network, joined by my sister Suzette Speaks. Suzette, we're talking about President Biden possibly losing support because some people don't like the stance that he's taken. It's putting this country and the conversation about our politics in a very unique space. Let me just say that. People are taking sides in this conflict. And we're not even over there in terms of full throttle. Like you mentioned earlier, we don't have boots on the grounds right now. It's just money and resources and just pledges, vocal support. And so it's causing a lot of folks, Arab Americans, Muslim Democrats, and others to really question the president and to be critical of him, that some folks are saying that moving forward, he might see a decline in support. Cheryl W., who is one of our culture crew members for today, she said, absolutely, Biden is losing support. I've been a lifelong Democrat since I was 18 years old, and I voted for Biden the first time, but I will not be voting for him this time around.
Yeah, I'm not sure if that's the majority, but I do think there are people that feel that way. I mean,
Right.
I saw her opinion. Thank you, Cheryl W., for your commentary in the chat. But yeah, I do think there are a set of folks that might feel strongly, and will it cause them to vote some other type of way or not vote? I think we'll have to see. But there are also people, just to kind of look at it from maybe a different lens, that are supportive of what the president is doing and want to see, and I've said it, all sides I think should want to go to the table and try to come up with a diplomatic solution again. But the United States has been very clear they're not sitting at the table with a terrorist organization like Hamas. I think it has been the Qataris and it has been Egypt that are brokering some of what we're seeing, the hostages, only 4 so far, but nonetheless, some of these, I could say, gestures of goodwill, even though bombing is still occurring. A lot of, again, the aid that's finally gone through Egypt or the northern border, it's still not enough to feed 2 million plus people. So people are going to be suffering, and that's what happens in conflicts. Like, this is really what war is like, and it's disgusting and it's horrible, and that's why we don't want it.
Yeah.
But I do think President Biden did step up when he went right away to visit the region. Again, there are folks that are going to support what he's doing because they know there are a lot of hostile neighbors, if you will, in the region that Israel must face. There are people that are nuclearly or have nuclear armaments that on a dime, they will drop it, without hesitation if they see weakness. So when it comes to this Iron Dome, and again, those things spill into more than a regional conflict. We don't want it to become regional because then it becomes global, and then we end up fully invested militarily. We do have a couple of our large carrier ships in the region, just again as a deterrent. There have been 2,000 of our service people that are on like standby, not having been deployed, but just on standby in case things go down, because we are trying to really avoid a regional conflict if we can. And again, the history of why Israel was created in the first place, and being that anti-Semitism and persecution is something that Jewish people have been facing throughout their existence. It is something that is also intertwined with, I think, why President Biden is moving the way he's moving. Not to say that I don't think he has, again, no regard for Palestinian life. But there are questions that people are going to have, and there are going to be people that agree or disagree with how he's handling this matter. But again, it is a very precarious position to be in because you have innocent lives, valuable innocent lives on both sides. So I think, again, we have just seen much more of a vocal response when it comes to the Palestinian cause, more so than I can remember.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I would agree. Now let's look at this other piece in there, which is that there was a report done by NBC News where they're showing that American Jews are seeking to defend themselves amidst this conflict that started on October the 7th. Here's from NBC News. Take a look at this, folks. It says firearm instructors and Jewish security groups across the country say they have been flooded with new clientele since Hamas assaulted Israel on October 7th. And gun shop owners in Florida say they have seen more Jews purchase firearms in recent weeks than ever before. We've definitely seen a tremendous increase in religious Jewish people, Orthodox people, purchasing firearms, says David Kowalski, who owns a Florida gun store in the town of Hollywood and also offers firearms training classes. He said, I've seen a surge in interest in individual training as well as group training. Now, here's the thing. This is coming from NBC News, so this is not Farajii Muhammad or Suzette Speak making it up. Look, let's put the quote type. So we know Suzette that the self-defense classes, firearm purchases have gone up as a result of this. This is for Jewish people in this country concerned about their safety for something that's happened across the water, and because of some incident of attack against some Jewish people. There have been certainly some incidents in this country. But look at what NBC News said. Take a look. It says, it is not uncommon for targeted groups to seek out self-defense measures after public attacks or threats. Some American Jews said they have first become interested in gun ownership after a 2018 shooting at a Pittsburgh synagogue killed 11 people. A 2022 study from the University of Michigan found that Asian Americans who has experienced racism during the pandemic were more likely to acquire firearms and ammunition for self-defense. Here's the thing, Suzette. When Black folk talk about fighting back, it's a problem. When everybody else You got a group of people here that's looking across the water and seeing this situation unfold. Firearm sales, self-defense skills go up. Asian American community, firearm sales, self-defense go up. Black folks, when we have a threat that's infecting us that's confronting us right in our face, like as soon as we walk out the door, and you got to go travel across the water, it's right there. And the moment we start to fight back, it's a problem. And I'm just pointing out the double standard. I'm just pointing out these are for me, Suzette, these are some of the lessons that we can take away from this conflict and looking at how it relates to Black America. If Jewish people can arm themselves and everybody's like, yeah, y'all need to arm yourself, then what about Black people who are experiencing threats right here on domestic soil every single day? What are your thoughts on it?
No, I know we have to take a break. That's why I was looking in the back chat. I'm sorry.
No, it's all good. It's all good. Well, let's take a break. Let's take a break. Let's do right by the producers. Yes. And let's have a conversation on the other side as we talk a little bit about this, folks. I want to get your take on this because I'm seeing this, that maybe this is something that we can learn from, something that we can take advantage of, something that we can use as we talk about the liberation and getting out of the oppressive state that Black folks find ourselves in here in America. Folks, stay with us. The conversation will continue on the other side with my sister Suzette Speaks and you right here on The Culture on the Black Star Network.
Pull up a chair, take your seat. The Black Tape with me, Dr. Greg Carr, here on the Black Star Network. Every week, we'll take a deeper dive into the world we're living in. Join the conversation only on the Black Star Network.
I'm Farajii Muhammad, live from LA. And this is The Culture. The Culture is a two-way conversation. You and me. We talk about the stories, politics, the good, the bad, and the downright ugly. So join our community every day at 3 p.m. Eastern and let your voice be heard. Hey, we're all in this together. So let's talk about it and see what kind of trouble we can get into. It's The Culture. Weekdays at 3, only on the Black Star Network.
When you talk about blackness and what happens in Black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in Black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Check some money orders. Go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com. Folks, Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punches!
I'm real revolutionary right now.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland.
Stay black. I love y'all.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
right, folks, welcome back to the culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii Muhammad. I thank you so much for tuning into the second half of the show. And I'm joined by my sister from another mother, Miss Suzette Speaks, checking in all the time as she does on Wednesdays, always providing her excellent insight and expertise on these issues. And we're talking about just a mix of things, but we kind of shifted into the conversation about how there's a new report that shows that American Jews are now arming themselves, going to self-defense classes, purchasing firearms to protect themselves from a threat that they foresee coming down the pike for them. And I'm talking about here in this country, but they see a threat. They feel that something is in the air, a sentiment of hatred. And so they're preparing and defending themselves. But it made me think, and I can't unthink it, Suzette. I can't unthink it, that we find ourselves confronted with a threat every single day in this country as Black people, as Black men, Black women, Black children. And we're not afforded the opportunity. We're not afforded this liberty to defend ourselves, because when we do defend ourselves, it becomes a problem. And this is why I think, Suzette, we should have conversations about global issues, because at the end of the day, those global humanitarian conflicts, they come right back down to the core, which is the struggle and liberation of Black folks. We can connect the dots. It may not be the same people, but it's the same principles, the same ideas, the same struggle in some cases that we have to show people, like, look, Black folks have been undergoing this for years. And now the rest of the world is seeing this. And it will be hypocritical if the government takes a stance and say, well, they can defend themselves, but I'm sorry, former slave, you can't defend yourself.
Well, I look at it in the vein of, the Second Amendment. And I do think we do want to encourage our community to do what is legally necessary to defend themselves. We have the right, just like any other American, to own firearms and to arm ourselves for our own personal safety. That's a part of our Constitution. And I do think we don't want to sound disempowered, because we have been for so long in our country. But the law as it stands now allows us to exercise that Second Amendment right, just like anyone else. So our Jewish brothers and sisters, our Arab brothers and sisters, whoever you can see now that are just more vocal about what they're doing, we've been doing that. We've been needing that, I should say. We have always kind of been under attack, as you've been describing, whether it's been in the law enforcement context, whether it's been in, where we live and the type of violence that we see more likely, depending on where we live in terms of urban versus rural, in terms of economics, et cetera. We've had that same feeling for quite some time, where, as a person who is just marginalized in a general sense from living, again, a self-determined life, one where we just want to exist. We're not bothering nobody. We're not doing anything to anyone. We just want to exist and follow the American creed of,
Right.
life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, just like every other American. But I do think, especially because of the history that is unique here in the United States with the enslavement of African peoples, we have that burden to kind of take hold of this equal opportunity in a way that I think other groups may not have had to consider. But we are hearing it now, as the article you just highlighted has said, that, other groups are feeling afraid and wanting to do this, and that's their right too. But I just think we have to empower our community to say to themselves, it is your right as well. Legal gun ownership is, I think, a part of, the personal safety tapestry that a lot of us desire. I don't own a firearm, but a lot of people wish to do so. And if you think that's the way you feel most comfortably protecting, your own personal safety, it's within your right to legally obtain a firearm just like anybody else, get training just like anybody else, go to classes just like anybody else. So I think,
and it doesn't have to be the firearm, Suzette.
Yeah, or whichever way. But I think
it doesn't have to be. I mean, the defense doesn't have to be, you getting a gun. And I see some crew members are saying like, I got mine and everything, and that's all.
Well, that's what I thought you were alluding to. That's what I thought.
No. It doesn't. I'm just saying in general, like just defense. Like we should be able to use our voices to speak out against injustice without feeling shamed. If you want to purchase a gun, that's totally a personal decision. But even if we wanted to set up any type of some type of infrastructure with within the law enforcement context, right? Like the Panthers used to do back in the day. Now we can have people recording stuff, and now that we're talking about community policing. My point is that anytime there's going back to that NBC News quote that said, it is not uncommon for targeted groups to seek out self-defense measures after public attacks or threats. Self-defense measures. That can include gun ownership, that can include better policy, that can include community policing, that could include whatever content. Self-defense measures. And I'm saying what's good for the goose is good for the gander, as they say, right? So it's like we're at a place now where I think not just American Jews, not just Asian Americans, we're at a time where you're seeing groups of people in this country who are dictating their own agenda on how they are going to be citizens, right? Regardless of whether the government agrees with them or not, they're pushing the government forward. They're like, no, we're not waiting for you to give us permission. That old saying is that sometimes it's better for you just to do the action and then answer questions later. These groups are not waiting for permission. They're taking the sustainability of their community, of their people into their own hands. And they're saying, this is what we're going to do. Now, government, catch up. Mm-hmm. And I'm looking at us and saying, man, this is a hell of an approach that we could possibly take in talking about moving on to liberation, because we're at a place of I'm waiting and seeing versus other groups of people are saying, no, we're moving and going. You know what I'm saying? Like we're planning and going. So it's that type of thing. What's your take on that very quick? I know we got to take another break.
That governance is important. I don't know. Beyond the church, I don't know of another unifying force that has such a place. And again, I with the conversation I had with Roland on his platform, the clergy that was our guest that evening, who happened to be in Israel during this attack, it was quite harrowing just to talk, hear him talk about how he survived it. But that ball has been dropped, Farajii. I hate to say it. The leadership that had such respect of this community has kind of fallen back or taken the sideline, worried about money, worried about other things. While other communities, I do agree with you. I've seen it here in South Florida. There are emergency dial-ups if something happens at a certain location. There are people that show up. There are folks that have, it's very organized because, again, you have groups that have been targeted in the past. They're not waiting on 911. They themselves already have kind of like emergency planning. What to do if a Jewish community center is attacked, what to do, who calls who first. The doctors who are a member of the congregation show up first. They beat the ambulance there. Right there, I've seen such really well planned, self kind of instituted safety and defense mechanisms. And I agree with you. If we can duplicate or somehow create that within our community, it would be so helpful. But I am at a loss to just think about which institution best could implement it. Urban League, NAACP, I don't know. But it would have been, or still may be able to be, faith-based. But yes,
that's a great point.
I agree that it can happen.
I get it.
I'm not quite sure how.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying, and I'm throwing it out there because I think we at least couldn't have the discussion. We can at least have the conversation. But you're right. We have to think it through. But I'm just saying that, we're looking at a different America, and you got to take this break. But when we're looking at this different America, we're looking at people who are saying, I can believe in the American dream on my terms. Whereas Black folks, we have always been taught and conditioned to believe that we can believe in the American dreams or the American dream on someone else's terms. And I'm saying at this point, we have to change the language. We got to change our context and perspective and say, look, we can't wait on somebody else to do it. We can't wait on the government. We got to do it ourselves. Look, we got to take a quick pause. When we come forward, let's continue the conversation. Let's also talk a little bit about, let's shift gears. Let's talk about a report that shows that Black women are earning less than the general U.S. population, but owe more when it comes to student and medical debt. We'll talk a little bit about that. And then let's talk relationships. We're going to be joined by relationship expert and media personality, LaDon Black, to talk about the do's and don'ts of the first date, given this list that has circulated on social media that got a lot of men and women talking. So stay with us. Those conversations are up next here on The Culture on the Black Star Network.
Pull up a chair, take your seat. The Black Tape with me, Dr. Greg Carr, here on the Black Star Network. Every week, we'll take a deeper dive into the world we're living in. Join the conversation only on the Black Star Network.
Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punch! I'm real revolutionary right now.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
All right, folks, welcome back to The Culture here on the Black Star Network, joined by my sister, Suzette Speaks. Make sure y'all follow her on all of her platforms and on her YouTube show and on Pantheon at Suzette Speaks Show on YouTube. And just keep up with her because she's always moving and shaking and doing a lot of great things involved in a lot of different spaces. So make sure y'all support her. All right, Suzette, what's your take on, I want to make sure that we did in that part of the discussion about, self-defense and everything, which as we look moving forward, how do you think this is going to pan out on a political, legal space? That if you see this rise in firearms and gun sales, do you think that there's going to be any type of, any new reforms or anything like that may be coming down the pipe?
I almost want to smile because I think if Black people actually did start buying guns en masse, we would see gun reform. I know I'm being facetious when I say that.
No, you know what?
I'm not trying to be offensive, but I'm trying to tell you, if we actually did any of this, the gun laws would change. I mean, I kind of want to be.
Maybe we should do that. Maybe we should just do that.
Know the laws where you live, right? An informed gun owner is the best gun owner, right? So we're not telling people just go do whatever, take a class. I have found that majority of gun owners, obviously you have to take a class in many of our states and jurisdictions, but you also should know when laws change, stay up to date, know your rights when it comes to your firearm, when you have to dispose, if you're stopped at a traffic stop, if you have to, just letting you know, what's in my glove box, I'm legal carrying, blah, 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 blah. So you have to just make sure you know the law as you enter into that space. But yeah, I think my dad and I always talk about the spikes in gun sales by non-Black folks when it comes to different, especially during George Floyd and other parts of interesting, which I say the news cycle. It happens all the time. Sales of bullets, sales of guns. It's not, we don't necessarily hear it reported all the time. That stuff spikes all the time. There are people that are constantly, I'm talking about arsenal. When we say Black people, want to face, off and go hand to hand, I don't know if we really want to do that. because the level of gun.
I wouldn't advise that either.
No, I'm just saying, like, we were talking about, what may happen. That has already been a trend. Americans love guns. Americans love their bullets. Anytime something happens, some big news story happens, there's a spike in gun sales. There's a spike in bullet sales. Anytime there's any idea that something may be banned, or, when bump stocks, I think during the, Las Vegas massacre that happened a few years back, when they were going to make bump stocks illegal because it made the weapon almost like a semi-automatic. People bought up bump stocks. People bought, like, anything like that happens, that's already happening. But right now, it seems as if policymakers are comfortable where the guns are being sold, right? So right now, we're not going to see any change, because I think that's the last line of defense. That's one thing about that whole patriot movement. If they feel like the government going out of bounds or out of control, or we're headed to some kind of, dictatorial regime that they don't agree with, them boys is ready. That's what actually will lock arms with y'all. Let's go, America. Let's go and figure this out. But no, there's always been big sales. Gun sales are always high. So I think that'll continue to be the trend.
It's going to, I think I would agree with you. I think that it's going to be interesting. But my first agreement comes with your initial part of the statement. Let Black folks go into droves into these gun stores.
It'd be like, why is that all of a sudden?
Like, wait a minute. Hold
every
on.
background check gonna be checked. Everything.
It's so funny. This is how I know you and I'll be thinking the same way. Because I literally was thinking that this morning when I was looking at the story. I was just like, I bet you gun laws would change as Black folks start buying them guns en masse. We don't have to use them. Just change the laws, right? And because it's this fear. There's always been this fear. I think a lot of Black scholars have always said that there's this fear from white America in particular that Black folks are going to do the same thing that white folks have done to Black folks over the years. And so there's this kind of chronic fear, like, if we allow them to have guns, if we allow them to get in positions of power and influence, if we allow them to, and this level of white guilt that is attached to this fear. And it's, even though Black folks we always saying, no, we're not like that. We're not going to move like that. We're not thinking like that. There's that fear is a very, very real, palpable fear that may not be all of white America, but some of white America is definitely looking at. So we will see, but I do think this is interesting that we're seeing this, but I think it's also interesting and it calls for us to rethink our relationship to how we see our current situation in this country to everyone else's situation. Everyone else is deciding that they're no longer are going to hope for the government. They're moving on. They're moving forward, Suzanne. And that's the space that I would love for us to see. Whether it's in gun ownership or not, that's not a big difference to me. But if it's putting out the message saying enough is enough, I'm all for it. I am all for it. Look, we got to take another quick pause. When we come forward, Suzanne, I want to get your take on this new report that shows that Black women are earning less than the general U.S. population, but are owing more when it comes to student and medical debt, and how this will impact how Black women see themselves, the job marketplace, and even the 2024 election that's around the corner. So stay with us. That conversation is up next here on The Culture on the Black Star Network.
Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punch! I'm real revolutionary right now.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig? When you talk about blackness and what happens in Black culture, you're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause to too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Check some money orders. Go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com.
All right, folks, welcome back to the culture here on the Black Star Network. Suzette, I think we might be kicking off a little minor revolution here. I'm seeing some people in the chat like, yo, I think I should buy some guns, Keisha. Keisha Poole saying, hey, look, we should test that theory and get some laws changed. I'll buy 2 for the team.
I looked and I saw people in the chat, talk about even in the Black community during the Trump years, our ownership of guns went up. We know that back in the day when the Black Panthers started to exercise like the open carry of like tall, long guns, nationally changed immediately. Illegal to do that, right?
Well, I wonder why.
1967, they was like, no, thank you.
I think they went to the capital and state of California. Did that?
Yes, it was in Cali. It was, they were like, oh no, not you, brother, not you, brother. So all these trends, it sounds like, we do know implicit bias, even racism exists in our halls of government. Although there are people that do believe in equality and fairness, et cetera, oftentimes we don't see things move as quickly in the direction that they should be when it comes to these type of issues. But we know there are people that do believe in equality and equal access and equal application of the law. The other good point Absolutely. I saw in the chat, y'all are great. Remember, gun laws change when you cross state lines. So also be aware of, if you're traveling with your firearm, what that new state's regulations are. You need to know.
Yep, absolutely. Speaking of getting some power, let's talk about Black women. And this is certainly something that this is the demographic. Y'all always are coming through on when it needs to, Suzette. So I'm always making sure that I'm doing my part to support the efforts of Black women. But it seems like Black women are not coming through as strongly as y'all could be in this latest report. This is coming from the GRIO, but it is based upon a national survey that was conducted by Goldman Sachs, 1 Million Black Women Public Policy Initiative. And they revealed that Black women suffer the most in the U.S. economy. Now, according to this survey that surveyed over 2,500 U.S. adults, the many findings there, the survey revealed that Black women, who are often the heads of household, are more likely to earn less than $50,000 before taxes, have fewer full-time salary jobs, and are seeking gig work at higher rates than the broader population. Talk to me on this, Suzette. What are you seeing? You're in a lot of spaces. You went to Black men in tech, and I know that you are definitely in spaces where Black women reign supreme. I think you went to something event. I saw a video.
Yeah, I've been to three conferences in the last 2 weeks. I'm tired, and I'm about to go to the Florida Democratic Convention this weekend. I'm tired. But it's all love. It's great to hear. I want to know what the tech industry has to offer for Black people. That's one of the reasons I went. I want to know what my brothers are doing in the spaces where there's money to be made in tech. Let me just tell y'all, if you're looking for a career change, I would encourage you, look up Black men in tech. Certain specialties only require what they call boot camps and short-term courses and coursework for you to make good 6 figures. And again, it's not promising the streets of gold, but as opposed to 4-year degrees, etc., tech is a lot more limber. It's a lot more agile, and you can really get in if you put the work in and the networking in. So I was encouraged to be around that. But yes, I'm in political spaces. I'm in all kinds of spaces when it affects Black people. But yeah, looking at these numbers, Farajii, I'm kind of not surprised. As you said, we Black women show up to the polls, most dependably is the word, for Democrats, cycle after cycle. But after kind of looking at this, that's why I always say social media can always give us some kind of skewed view of ourselves for good or for bad when it comes to, parts of it, dispelling the myths about, Black women and how we've heard, all these things about us being the welfare queen, when in fact, that's actually our white women counterparts that are the majority of those things, and majority of single mothers, as we discussed here on this program with experts, are white women, et cetera, et cetera. I still think there's so much to learn about the secret lives of Black women. When we looked at this survey, now it was 2,500 women that were surveyed, and
Right.
when you look at how far we are off the norm when it comes to opportunity, I wish and I hope, and as I was reading the article as well, I'm like, what's the source of this, and how do we fix it? Because looking at some of the damage, right? We're not earning on average 50 grand. All right. When we look at, I didn't even talk about like net worth. 43% of us have health insurance from an employer. Nationally, it's 53%. 7%, 64% of us have student loans over 25,000 or more, 55% nationally. And I could go on because I was just trying to take notes at looking at why is it that, we are 10% or more showing a differential from the national population. And I don't know if I have all the answers for why, but I do think this is the type of information we need to bring to our policymakers. That's why I know you and I always, discuss what role Black people should play in pushing their agenda. Like I admire again our Arab American brothers and sisters for getting loud and getting in the faces of politicians and speaking from their different advocacy groups, not just the electeds, but the regular folks. Give money to the people who go and speak truth to power. I think it's something that we have to do on behalf of Black women. Because there's certain policy. Childcare was the other thing. National childcare. Looking at how many people have foregone, how many Black women, or the percentage that have foregone jobs because childcare has been an issue. Things like this, policy initiatives that can help address these things. I don't know if they're, front and center as they need to be to help Black women make these improvements. But yeah, there's family dynamic, I think. And then there's just, I don't know if I don't know how I can characterize where this began, right?
I think it's long stemming.
Yeah.
I think this is years. This is years. This is not just something that happened within the past 2 years or 3 years. You know what I'm saying? Like, we've seen the rise of Black women in this country, right, in a very, very big way, in spite of all of the other challenges that our community, our people are facing. So we've seen that. But at this point, it's like, Black women, y'all been carrying the burden of a lot of for a lot of institutions and a lot of, spaces, politically, socially, educationally, even in healthcare. But as much as they are carrying, y'all are being saddled with all of this stuff as well, right? And so this has happened over years. Our sister Melanie Campbell, y'all already know Melanie, President, CEO of the National Coalition of Black Civic Participation. She's often on Brother Roland's show. She's one of the members of the 1 Million Black Women Advisory Council that put out this survey. And she said that she believes that she hopes that the new survey results will be crucial for policymakers who have the ability to craft policy to close the long-standing economic gaps for Black women. She said, you can't make good policy without good data. Policy is a part of being able to impact systemic change. And I think that's where it is. I think this is a snapshot. Does that mean that that's where y'all gonna stay forever, Suzette? No, but I think that it's sobering, and which is why I, bring this to this space, to this platform, especially with a sister like you, to give us some context to be like, as far as we think we're going, as much ground you think we've covered, we still got a lot of work to do.
Yeah, that's why in the DEI space, again, we have to be very careful that it's not just a matter of pasting a picture of a Black woman as a kind of poster child for whatever is going on. Yes, I think we have gained a lot of visibility, but again, this is our economic prowess. So while we are trying to and are exercising our political muscle, we have to redirect and as we're giving, we have to request, we have to ask, or we have to push for. This is also a part of the agenda that we're demanding in exchange for our unwavering support. So the fact that we just do it because we want to save democracy is really great. But I do think sometimes it doesn't tell the full story, because there are all these things about Black women are ahead of this. And again, number one, to start businesses. But again, those businesses are more than likely making 25 grand or less a year. So the economic piece has not quite yet been addressed adequately so that we are on par with our white counterparts, white females, especially when it comes to what they make and how profitable their businesses are, opportunities that they're able to obtain, and the level of independence and self-sufficiency. Like, it also is, to me, it is a glowing sign of how resilient Black women are, that in spite of our true economic snapshot, that's I'm telling you, the social media views of us, again, have helped us to elevate. But again, the reality of what we want, oftentimes we want to be independent of, maybe the corporate structure, or maybe we can't get the job in the corporate structure, because I know a lot of women like that are trying to get into certain jobs and they can't get into it. So therefore they are pushed into gig economy. Therefore they are pushed into, entrepreneurship as a means of supplementing their income. So there are a lot of ways, I think, though, that we can push policymakers, government, to help to fill in some of these gaps.
And very quickly, for us to not believe the hype. I think that starts there. And I'm saying, from a cultural standpoint, you got your policy stuff you got to do. You got your economic stuff you got to do, the job and marketplace. But I think the cultural stuff is just what you just said in terms of our presentation of ourselves. Sisters say, no, I'm on top of mine. I'm in these spaces. I'm on top. And it's like, that's not true, sis. That's not true.
We removed the affirmative action.
And here's the thing, Suzette. Okay, you are a lawyer. You are making a certain amount of money. You are in certain spaces, but your sister is still left behind.
But so I'm not making what my white counterparts are making. See, that's the thing. Even with the same degrees, we're not pulling the same thing. So it's a double-edged sword. We look good, we sound good, we express ourselves well. We're the number one people going to college, but the return on that investment, we're with more debt at the end of the day and making less money. It's something that is not quite, comporting for social representation.
And that right there, more debt, less money, you're not getting a return on investment. And then in your personal relationship, your family relationships, and all of that stuff is predicated upon this one presentation versus the reality.
Farajii, that's a whole nother can of worms.
That's a whole nother can of worms. That's why we got LaDonna Black that's going to be joining us to talk about relationships.
You're over. Take a break.
That's why we got it. All right, folks, look, we're going to take a quick pause. When we come forward, we're going to be checking in with relationship expert, media personality, and author, Miss LaDonna Black, one of my favorite people, to talk to us about the do's and don'ts of a first date and relationships, given this list that went out on social media over the past couple of days. I got a lot of people talking, both men and women. So stay tuned. That conversation up next here on The Culture on the Black Star Network.
I'm Deborah Owens, America's Wealth Coach, and my new show, Get Wealthy, focuses on the things that your financial advisor and bank isn't telling you, but you absolutely need to know. So watch Get Wealthy on the Black Star Network.
Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punch! I'm real revolutionary right now.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
All right, folks, welcome back to The Culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii Muhammad, joined by my sister, Suzette Speaks. For our final conversation, this is the discussion that I'm seeing based upon a list that came out on social media over the past 24, 36 hours or so, where there are a lot of do's and don'ts about dating, the first date. Now, a couple of days ago, Brother Roland had on his show, he played a video of a sister who supposedly gone out on a first date, and the date pulled up in front of the Cheesecake Factory. And she just didn't even get out the car. She didn't even want to even take a whiff of cheesecake because she felt like it wasn't first date quality. That you don't take a beautiful woman in her eyes. She said, I'm a beautiful woman. I got class. I got style. I'm bringing all this to the table. And you take me to a place like the Cheesecake Factory for our first date. Now, some people have said that this is a very real concern that Black women have. Some other folks have said that that whole scenario that was videotaped was contrived and it's just there to spark reaction. But it has certainly opened up the conversation about first dates and making an impression. So we wanted to reach out to our relationship expert, Ms. LaDawn Black, who is a relationship expert, media personality, author of 2 books called Strip Bare. She's the author of the book Strip Bare and Let's Get It On. And to give us some insights about what is it that we're seeing, because this list is absolutely crazy. So let me welcome back to the airwaves of The Culture here on the Black Star Network, my sister, LaDawn Black. LaDawn, where's LaDawn? There she goes. There she go.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right, let me show this list. Can we show this? Because this, I would hate to do it. Look at this list, y'all. Listen, we got to squeeze this in because I'm gonna read just a few of those things that are on this list. I like how this starts off. This is what's going around on social media. Group of ladies. Who is this ambiguous group of ladies? Make a list of places men, in quotes, shouldn't take them on the first date. I guess you're not a man if you take a woman to the Cheesecake Factory on a first date. But this is a list of about 28 places, folks. I'm going to read a few of them. It says, here's a list of places women absolutely refuse to go on a first date due to, and thank you to the ladies who reached out to me to help me for this list. First place, Cheesecake Factory. Second place, Applebee's, then Chili's, then Chipotle, Olive Garden. You don't take movies. You don't take a woman to the movies on a first date. Wow. You don't take her to your house. That should have been number 1, right? And Suzette, that's the first place you don't take. Hey, baby, how you doing? You want to go to my house? Your house. Any fast food chain, Buffalo Wild Wings, Wingstop, Red Lobster, a buffet, AHA, Denny's, the gym, church, Starbucks, coffee dates, damn, ice cream dates, family functions, movie nights, Netflix and chill is a no deal. Somewhere that requires a long drive, wow, bowling, nightclubs, hookah bars, a bar for just drinks, Waffle House, and sports events. Damn.
I'm finna go to half of those, so y'all don't put me in that. Don't put me in that. What are you talking about? This gotta be youngins.
This guy's the LaDawn. Where else you gonna go then at this point?
It's crazy. You know, the thing is, we talk about that it's hard to find someone and where are all the good men, and then we put this nonsense out. Now, personally, you can have feelings about places and you can say, well, I can afford way more than Cheesecake Factory, so why would I go there on a date? But this is someone treating you, trying to get to know you. So you kind of roll with what they're able to offer. Later on, after a few days, you let them know what your expectations are. But I don't see a problem with any of these places for the most part for a first date.
For a first date, so this idea of taking, I've seen conversations. Some women say, I don't even want a coffee date. And I would think the first date is the first date, right? Like here's what I read, and tell me if I'm wrong on this, LaDon. This Suzette, I want to get your take on it. I read, and I even saw this on the news, that the average date in America today in 2023 will run from $100 to $150 for just one date, the average date. Is that true? Do you feel like, is that true, LaDon?
I think it's accurate because I think people want to impress. They want to put their best foot forward. But I actually am an advocate for the coffee date, for the let's just grab drinks date. Those dates where the timeline is really short, so you're not locked into hours together. It truly is, let's get in, see if we have anything in common. And if we want to go to dinner later, great, but that's not the expectation. So I think dates can be a lot cheaper, but we have to get away from that thing that we have to roll out the red carpet on the first date when it's really sort of a tryout on both sides.
All right, Suzette, what's your take on that? Is the Starbucks is out of order? I mean, what are we looking at here?
Listen, I saw this list and I'm like, they ain't gonna have nobody because where's he now? I really do believe like going to his house. Yep, that's terrible. And I do think like movies, I want to talk to you. So if we're not able to talk like before or after, I think again, that misses the point, which is to see if there's any chemistry. Do you have things that I like? Do I have things that you like? What are we here for? I do think it's a little bit, it's a little bit forward to get into somebody's car and then to tell him, you don't want to go there. Now, in the video that you talked about that went viral, the lady, one of the key factors that the lady was 1 hour late for this date with this guy that she was mad that she was going to the Cheesecake Factory with. So he did make reservations somewhere else, but because they were late, he had to do something, plan B. So he went to the Cheesecake Factory. And on top of that, I've seen her
context is important.
Yeah, I seen her in post interviews, and I was so selfish. I realized, when she got the social media feedback, I don't think she anticipated. Which again, lack of self awareness these days is kind of crazy. But she was so surprised that people were so appalled by her behavior. She was like, "I think maybe I was a bit selfish." I'm like, kind of sis. Well, who would want to go on a date with you anyway with that attitude? So there's a lot of different things about her own, maybe journey and evolution and maturity that leaves to beg the question, don't use every woman as these women, please everybody. So these ladies made a list of what they felt like. Again, I'm going to half of them with y'all. There are people that have been married that started at the China walk, and it's about the substance of the connection as opposed to the price. Now, those of us who know the game and that some people are trying to eat out for fun, okay, we're going to call it out, and trying to come up off another person and use them, right, to have a good time and say, girl, we went to, Ruth's Chris, girl, I have my shrimp or whatever. It's not for sport. It really should be that you care about the person. And then when you get to know the person, and then when you're in something more serious, then you see where, there are other more, I guess, costly adventures. But yeah. I have been invited once on a coffee date. I didn't go because I didn't really like to do like that. And I was like, no.
But you're saying you would go on a coffee date.
But I would. If I really liked you, if I thought we had chemistry, absolutely. Yeah. What's the problem with the ice cream? I think it's so pure. I think, okay, hit me up, happy hour. I'm good for a happy hour because you save your money. Save your money. Let's go to Cheesecake for happy hour, and we under $100. You good? Let's go. So
wait a minute.
It's inflation out here.
This ain't the 1950s. Nobody's going out for ice cream and kicking and throwing rocks on a pond. This ain't the 1950s.
Go to ice cream and walk in the park after, I'm cool with that.
Very nice.
Hey, look, let me take a quick pause. When we come forward, let's continue to talk to LaDon Black, Suzette Speaks, and you folks as we talk about the do's and don'ts of first dates. Y'all thought that list was crazy. Wait till I show you the list of what men want. Stay with me. That conversation continues on the other side here on the Culture on the Black Star Network.
Hi, I'm Dr. Jackie Hood Martin, and I have a question for you. Ever feel as if your life is teetering and the weight and pressure of the world is consistently on your shoulders? Well, let me tell you, living a balanced life isn't easy. Join me each Tuesday on Black Star Network for a Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie. We'll laugh together, cry together, pull ourselves together, and cheer each other on. So join me for new shows each Tuesday on Black Star Network, A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie.
Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punch! I'm real revolutionary right now.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
All right, folks, welcome back to the culture here on the Black Star Network. We're talking about the list of first date do's and don'ts. And this is why I had to bring some backup on it. I can't even talk to the own crew about this without jokes being made and just some wild ass comments. Man, oh man, I'm joined by my sister Suzette Speaks. Y'all can check her out every Wednesday, and relationship expert, media personality, and author, my favorite expert on relationships, y'all. Everywhere I go, LaDon goes. My sister LaDon Black. LaDon, let's talk a little bit about this. I think we're in a very interesting space when it comes to expectations. And I seen my man Willie, my brother Willie Frazier. He pointed out something because I've seen a lot of black men talk about this. He said the thing that got me was her expectations on a first date were, to me, expectations of a boyfriend or a serious relationship. You want to go to Cancun on a first date? F out of here.
Listen,
I heard that. I've seen that. You know what I'm saying? Like, sisters be like, no, I want you to take me to the most expensive restaurant so I can tell you that I don't like you.
No, that's messed up.
Take me. No, but what? How do you temper the expectations when you're going into meeting someone and having, just starting the process?
I think you have to be realistic. And the thing is, I think when guys, let's just say in this case, a man is asking a woman out, he has to be honest and say, look, I just want to get to know you. We can do something that's brief. We can do something light. Make sure it's light and fun. And then I think on the other side, a lot of times women want these expensive dates in these nice places. One, because sometimes they can't take themselves, or two, because
only you can say that. Only you can say that, LaDon. Because I can't say that as a black man. I couldn't say, my brothers could not say that. They're like, you just want a free meal.
True. And then sometimes they want that Instagram moment. So it's not even about the guy. It's about the picture. It's about the experience. And it's about capturing it so I can look like I'm living a fabulous life. The truth is, and what I've seen in sort of following this viral post around on social media, is that most people are saying, look, if you're interested in a person, that ice cream date, that coffee date, that let's just grab some drinks date will be just as good as the high-end restaurant on the water. If you're interested. Now, if you're not interested and it's just to get a free meal or to have a free experience, then of course you're going to be like, well, why is he taking me here when he could take me over here and I could actually get some great pictures? And I think that's where a lot of people are stuck right now.
All right, so here's the other part about this as well. The other part is if a woman says, well, I'm going to let the man lead and I'm going to let him determine what the first date experience is, but then you're not happy with his choice, and then that becomes a problem, and then the second date doesn't happen. How do you reconcile that?
I think a lot of times, one, I'm going to stick with, if you're interested, whatever he picks or selects or takes you to, you're going to be good with. Because if you're interested, the goal is to get to know him. But let's just say he takes you someplace and you're like, ooh, this is not even remotely on my level and not a place that I would ever go. A woman who's interested in being kind to you will figure out a way to let you know that after the date that isn't dehumanizing, that isn't there to dent your ego. She may say, well, you know what? Next time, let me pick the spot. And then when she picks this fight and he walks in, he's like, oh, this is her expectation. He'll know the next time. But that's because and she's leading with kindness. So I think you can get your expectations met, especially if a guy misses the mark on the first date. Always offer up that second date and then show him, all the experts say, sometimes you got to show a person how you want to be treated. Show him what you want, and then he'll know that that's the level that you expect.
Absolutely. All right, Suzette, let's take a look at this list for men. The group of men, the group of men make a list of the kinds of women you should never take on a date. Now, this is very, very hurtful. So I'm gonna just say I didn't come up with this list, folks. Don't act like Farajii came up. Farajii and the Culture and Black Star Network didn't come up. No BS list like this. Take a look at this, y'all. The type of women, kind of women you should never take on a date. Single mothers. Well, that knocks out about 80%.
Who wrote this?
Single mothers, women with tattoos, women who dress like this in public, sex workers, only fangirls, mattress actresses, strippers, call girls, escorts, Instagram models, bottle girls, women with an IG page. Sorry, Suzette. Women with non-ear piercings, women with purple hair or any other unnatural color, women with hoe friends, models who market to men, women who travel regularly. Geez, you want a local chick. Women who drink liquor regularly. Okay. Women with weak absentee fathers. Women who live alone. Women with party voice. Women on dating apps. Women who have been on Fresh and Fit. Women with lists. Women who have been engaged. Divorcees. And here's the kicker: American Black women.
Wow.
That's not a real list. Who wrote that? That was for just reaction.
No women on it.
Who is left? Who is left?
Here's the thing, though, very quickly. I know we're going to, let me just do this. Susan, I want to get your take on this. We're going to take our final pause. But this is so divisive, LaDon. This is like, oh, all them women. And then you get to the last one. You're like, oh, yeah, this equals Black women. Like, who the
There's
white
people
women,
that really
Native American
have an issue with their own women. So not all, but there are people that really have issue with their own sisters, and that's real. So we got to talk about
these are women hating men. I'm convinced these are women hating men that come up with this bullshit ass stuff, these rules. And so I want to get your take on this. We got to take a final pause. When we come back, more conversation. Stay with us. It's The Culture here on the Black Star Network.
Pull up a chair, take your seat. The Black Tape with me, Dr. Greg Carr, here on the Black Star Network. Every week, we'll take a deeper dive into the world we're living in. Join the conversation only on the Black Star Network.
Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punch! I'm real revolutionary right now.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
All right, folks, welcome back to the show. We've been talking about relationships and datings, the do's and don'ts of the first date. And I've been checking in with my sister, Suzette Speaks, relationship expert, LaDon Black, and of course with you. We talked a little bit, just share the list of women that men should not take out on a date. Now, this is two different lists. I'm not slow, Suzette. This is two different lists. Showing a list of places that Black or women don't want to eat versus showing a list of the type of person that you should take out. Two different lists. That first list of what for women did not say, oh, don't talk to no single Black man, a Black man with an IG page, a Black man with children, a Black man that has curly hair. Girl, you can't trust a Black man with a beard.
Mm-hmm.
This is just people, Farajii, like individuals who created this list, right? This is not the survey we just talked about of 2,500 people, 1,000,000 people. This is individuals who either are social media, maybe trolls, or for their individual desires, they are going to call it something men want or men don't want. I think it can be even satirical to a certain extent.
Yeah.
But yeah, for that girl or woman, wherever she's from, that's what she came up with. But again, I think if you took an empirical study, that might actually show that that's not how many more of us feel. But yeah, when it comes to that, I wanted to back up a little bit on the restaurant choices. I think it's better to remain kind of in I don't want to say in your feminine posture, but in a way, it kind of reverses roles when you're telling a man where to take you. This is weird, especially if it's on a first date encounter. I think that's very weird. I think it's also important to let him show you who he is. So if you are giving him instructions, you are allowing him to kind of, camouflage into what you want him to be. But what you really should be trying to identify is who he truly is at his core, or where he is in this moment of his development. So if his choice, and maybe the second choice, or the kind of way, I wouldn't call it below your standards, but questionable for whatever reasons you find them questionable, then it tells you about that person. And then you can have the conversation, and then you can either choose to stay or step away, because he's indicating who he is and what he's able to do. But I think if you are telling or dictating what a person should be doing for you, you're missing the mark as to finding out more about where they are. And I think, again, you should be observing in a date. You should be observing and listening and trying to figure out how far along in this evolution that we're all on is this person. Is he evolved enough to meet me halfway, or I meet him, or enjoy his company, enjoy mine, and can make a life together if it's together? That's what we're trying to be, date for. But I think, again, dating has become a recreational sport for some and some women. So we're getting some genuine people, like they call it, there's pee in the dating pool. I'm sorry, forgive my expression, but for men that are actually seeking long-term, solid, relationships, and women who are looking for the same, there are a lot of people that are just, out here playing rugby and trying to have fun what they can do for you, how they can use you. And it has tainted and it made people jaded. It made people, some people just stay on the sidelines. I'm tired, buy a cat or a dog and go to church. No disrespect. Because it hurts after a while. You go. That's why you have to hopefully stay encouraged and stay around people who are understanding the new dating game, as it were, that there are more people that are deceiving you into believing that they want one thing and they're only there for something else. So whatever that something else is, and it can be men and it can be women. So we got to be like, genuine people are not worried about whether you take me to, somebody just say go to corral, even though I'm not going to go to corral, y'all. I'm not going to go to corral. I'm not.
See, this is why things don't work out. But you ain't going to
Starbucks,
all you can eat buffet.
I would do, we could go to happy hour, find a little sushi spot. Okay, we're good. But if you wanted to go to corral, I'm sorry, I might miss a good man if he's taking me to go to corral. But in general, we have to look at, especially on that other list, again, there's a lot of anti-Black womanness on that list.
Oh my God.
And the stereotypes and the tropes that it plays into about single mom. Like, okay, are we really saying that? Are we really saying that?
Yes. Hey, look, Suzanne.
Married? That's who we really are. Thanks, guys. So we're sitting here, and the majority of our men also, I think it's like 47%, don't have kids, never been married. So there's a whole lot more of us that are not that stereotype of a lot of what was said. And so I guess we got to be very careful and call it out when people are trying to paint us in these corners of kind of misogynoir in a sense. We got to be very careful.
And LaDon, that's what I want to get your take on, which is my greatest concern about stuff like this. Even though it's like funny and outrageous in some respect, people actually are listening to it. Like, people are getting dating advice and relationship advice from social media memes. Little pictures, folks. Like, if we ain't doing this, you ain't my boo.
Exactly. And it's sad. It's sad because I think really what men saw when they looked at the list that the women put together, they saw an attack on their pockets. And an attack on the pocket is really different from an attack on women in general. And that's what that second list was. I mean, a woman who lives alone. I'm like, okay, wait a minute. Then that's
right. A woman that doesn't have an IG page in 2023.
Exactly. So these types of things, yes, they're funny for most folks because most folks are logical and they go, oh yeah, this is just something that's gonna make me giggle and let's talk about it at work and keep it moving. But for others, they're looking at it going, oh, wait a minute, I really like Cheesecake Factory. I guess I shouldn't be going there anymore. And they're making life decisions based on that. And that's really unfortunate. Because the truth is, he may be taking you to the Cheesecake Factory because that menu is like a book and he wants to make sure you can read. You never
or that you have plenty of options
for what they're doing.
Because they have a lot of options too. You can be vegan, you can be this, you can be that. They have everything. You can get the chicken egg rolls or you can get the avocado egg rolls.
Hey, look. Yeah, that's why I love talking about this stuff with black women. Y'all like, Look, so you can make sure you can read. Like hey, LaDon, you sitting across the table like.
Yes, and then now he knows she's not as smart as she seems.
Oh, okay. She'll be like, so what is this called? Feta cheese, feta cheese.
Lord, or filet mignon.
Yeah. But here's the thing, because of course I'm in LA here. You got tons of places to go. Food trucks is a big deal. Mm-hmm. Open air taco spots are a huge part of the culture out here, and it's so funny because some of us like I don't want to go to these places, and it's like, yo, this is LA City culture here. This is part of life in the city. You know what I'm saying? But it's concerning more because it creates this level of division and hatred that I think that is something that speaks against the very thing that we say we want to do, which is come together. And that's the big thing about this. And I mean, along with the women hating tone of it, but more importantly, it's just the simple fact that, you know what, we can't even come together because everybody's in their silos. Everybody thinks that they're the prize. And that's the final question I have for you, LaDon. If everybody thinks they're the prize, and I think I hear this more from the women's side, not to throw the shade on the sisters, but I hear this like, I'm the prize. My vagina is the prize. Because that's what, you know what I'm saying? Because that's how some sisters come into the interaction, to the connection. Like, oh, okay, so I'm gonna make him work for it. And it's like,
well, this is the thing. I think in its pure sense, valuing yourself and saying that a person has to prove that they're worthy of your time and your effort. I think there is some value in that, but we also have to realize that there's a flip side to that as well, that you have to impress on your end as well. And I think sometimes for some, if we're going to talk about women in particular, some women are so involved or so focused on their personal value that they don't realize that they have to bring something to the table too. And it has to be more than a degree. It has to be more than what you make, because for some men, that's not even a factor. So you sitting around, it was this one viral post that went around saying, well, I don't really care what degree you have, thanks, but no thanks. That's not really what I'm interested in. I want to get to know you. So
absolutely,
women have to realize that the things that sometimes we brag on and think are of value to us aren't necessarily of value to men.
There it is. I gotta stop it right there.
This type of stuff goes viral, and we think that it's every man and every woman, and there is a thought behind for some that this might in fact be to divide us. So we need to not fall for the play, right? Because
and you know what?
Who benefits if black women and black men don't get together? Look at the list of what we just talked about as far as our economics and where we really are. Wouldn't we benefit from actually more relationships? But instead we're reading stuff online that make us think that we shouldn't be with a man unless he can do this, and they shouldn't be with us because we're like that. We got to be very careful, because this economic, what we just went over, is a lot of a result of what we're talking about. So we got to be careful that this is not kind of being indoctrinated into us as what is. It's
absolutely love it. I couldn't agree with you more. LaDon Black, relationship expert, media personality, author. Y'all can follow her on Teas by LaDon. Follow her on all social media platforms. She is fantastic in sharing her insight and her expertise. LaDon, thank you so much for bringing some sense of sanity to the culture on this. Thank you so much. We truly appreciate you. Absolutely. My sister Suzette Speaks. Suzette, thank you for joining us as always. Make sure y'all follow her on all social media platforms. Check out her show, the Suzette Speaks Show, and continue to watch her on here on the platform on the culture here every Wednesday.
I will be
You're
here
not
next
gonna be here next week because you got another conference.
Appreciate you. Bye, guys. I know we got to wrap. Thank you. Great show. Great comments. Bye, guys.
Bye. All right, folks, that's going to do it for us. Thank you, each and every one of you, my dedicated and my loyal and my fantastic culture group. Thank y'all for checking in. Certainly want to appreciate y'all. Thank y'all for following us on all social media platforms. Make sure you do your due diligence. Support us at blackstarnetwork.com. Download the app for free. Follow us on social media and give to this digital movement that we are powering forward. Thank you again for that support. Also, folks, make sure you follow me, yours truly, The Real Farajii, on Instagram. I'd love to connect and build with you. And of course, continue the conversation on that space as well. Stay tuned. Up next is Roland Martin Unfiltered. As always, never be afraid to challenge what's wrong. Stand for what's right while being yourself in the process. God willing, we will talk on tomorrow for another exciting edition of The Culture here on the Black Star Network. Peace.